Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we're going to be taking a look at some of the domestic performances from Street Man Fighter Season 1. I know this is the track that Rain had for the show. It's the equivalent of the Hwasa mission with Season 2 Street Woman, as well as the Jessie mission from Season 1 of Street Woman Fighter. So I kind of have an idea of how this challenge goes. It'll be up to popular vote to some degree, 5 judges, and then as well, Rain will have a say on what vibe he's going for as well. I have no idea who won this challenge, nor have I seen any of them. I don't even know if I've heard the track before, so it's going to be really fun. Let's go ahead and get into it.
여러분의 좋아요로 뱅크2 브라더스를 응원해주세요.
Hip-hop originator, Bank2 Brothers.
So they have Field Dog as Rain. This is gonna be mad fun. Okay. I think this is definitely one of my favorite performances from Bank2 Brothers. Wow, fun. I like their energy in this one. It's pretty chill. Wow, what a surprise! Bank2 Brothers really did a great job on this one compared to some of their other choreographies. It was deemed a little bit too on the simpler side, but I really like the approach they did here. Is it still a little bit simpler? Yeah, but I think they really helped balance it with some of their other visual concepts that they brought to the table. This was so fun. For me, I think it could just be a preference thing. I do like the kind of meshing of the two different styles, more of the Western fit with more of the Joseon era kind of historical upper part, but you also see a little bit of a do-rag over here, so it's a cool vibe. I'm not gonna lie, I'm digging it. It looks cool. I think a very smart choice to have Field Dog as the feature, because I know he was an idol, and so it is really nice to see him use his idol training to work here. I don't know if he still is, but it is really nice to see him be able to use that skill set for this challenge. Just kind of going through. I love that there's that in the back, but there's that fiddle. I think is what it's. I'm gonna assume that's a fiddle. Or no, it's not a fiddle, because the fiddle is a little bit higher, and it'd be different. I don't know why they would choose a fiddle. Anyway, I think it could be a Joseon or a historical instrument, I think is what I'm going to place instead. So I'm trying to retract early and not overly assume. Anyway, the point of this though is not the instrument, but I like the fact that he's choosing to play an instrument. That's probably why I thought it was a fiddle, is because for him, or electric violin or something, because of how it is played here. Because certain historical instruments are played not like this. They're played more like in your lap, things of that nature. But anyway, it doesn't matter, and I like the choice is really what I meant to say in all of that. Yeah, so they have that more of it's a chill rock and bounce, which I think works for this track. It's super fun. I like the use of the reject and how they integrate it into more of a Steve Martin. So their connection between their grooves I really like, and I think that's my point. And their formations are clean, and I really like the transition choices they're making. It's not one-dimensional. I like the usage of the fan with the bleed through. I really like it. I would say my only note is, does it appear that Field Dog there's a chance that the rain feature may not stick out as much as maybe Rain would prefer. I don't know. The last track that I've really heard from Rain was the la 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 la, that one. So if that dates my listening skills to his aesthetic track than anything, then it sure is that one. But I like that where they go up and then they peel through with him having that accent. That was nice to tailor the end of the phrase. Yeah, so all of this is really nice. It does remind me, I think Wolflow took an approach similar to this, not with the hats, but with the groove. I think it's the approach they took with Hwasa's choreo, but I have my own analysis on that, so you can go watch that. But I feel like they really give off similar energy. I feel like we've seen B2B in as many eliminations as we've seen Wolflow. I mean, of course, there's one elimination grouping that B2B is not involved in, but I feel like if out of any crew, B2B is going to show up in elimination in some way. And that's not, I mean, it's just sometimes that happens. That's that's what they struggle through, is the choreographic side of really making and refining the toolkit necessary to make it effective for the challenge. But I really do like this. It's fun. And I know they have another challenge actively happening at the same time, which is Muse of Street Muse of Street Man Fighter. That's in this too, that I know we will be seeing. But I really like the transition here. Not transition, the peel out or the add-on, where you have my group of one and then my two, and then I think, how do they peel it? He controls everybody through to, I think it was just a tad bit off from my two over here, just a little bit, but nothing crazy. I like that, and then they snap to the front. Really fun. Also know too, if they're doing some wordplay, forgive me, a lot of this is in Korean. I'm not fluent in Korean, I'm working on it. But I do know they could be playing around with some wordplay in this, but and if I don't catch it, that's probably why. Or if they do wordplay on the English words, I'm going to associate it with English equivalent. So that, just also know that too. I know there was something that happened in the Hwasa choreo that made me think that they were doing one movement, but because they did the wordplay on the word 7, but it was chill. So, no, chili, they did the 7, and they reminded me of TT, and so I made a note of that. But anyway, they just never, the chili was in reference to being hot. I didn't reference it to the word 7, but that's nothing, I mean, it does have something to do with this, but not really, it's an off-topic thing, anyway. But I like that, it's boom, and he throws it, shattered glass. Really love that. Do I think it was a camera angle? Really wasn't the best choice for that. I know they broke to the side. I wish that the camera was a little bit higher so you could see the break off. I know what they were going for, but that was just kind of a missed opportunity. That reminds me of BIIB. That was a note I made of theirs. They had a column and then they fanned, like they peeled over, and then it revealed Bada. And I felt like some of the girls weren't quite hinged over enough for me to really see that visual. So that's just my big note. Do I think it may be a little too simple? Maybe. I know Rain really likes to explore concepts with dance, and I feel like this may be a little too chill for what he may have wanted. I don't quite know. That would probably be my own note, if anything. I like that doon 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 with domestic. I do feel like it is nice when they kind of pop up the fan, but it does feel like they're holding it for the majority of their time, you know? I love this bleed and melt through, and they come up. That was very clean. I love it. And I love the choice of the angle too. It would have been cool if they had an extra accent, but I see they are able to use the fan to help keep the feature featured, which I really like. Yeah, I would say part of another thing that could maybe work against this routine, because remember, preference plays a huge role in this too, because it's a K-pop, it's an artist rough draft choreo. Something that could work against this is that they do keep a similar groove throughout the courses, and I do like that, but does it bring a sense of varying options with how to interpret the course? I don't know. There really isn't another thing. There really isn't anything super notable that sticks out as a focal point that can make this really pop off on the socials. Now, I don't know if this, I know with the Hwasa challenge, part of the challenge was you wanted to make it where you could promote it virally. I don't know if that was a requirement here. I did try to look up, but there really wasn't a lot of information on the criteria outside of preference and voting, right? And that could be, this doesn't have anything that creates that kind of focal point that a lot of K-pop has nowadays, or that industry has, which is you want to have content that can be something that sticks out on socials that makes people want to learn it. So I wonder if that's something that was subtly in the back of people's heads here. I love this little feature that they did. I think Rain, it would be cool to see him do that. Yeah, but just like, you know, they do have a simpler approach to a lot of choreo. As much as I like it, do I think that this could be as competitive as the other ones? I don't quite know, but this is my benchmark. This is technically the first one I'm watching, and so I am looking forward to seeing the rest of them.
신곡 안무 창작 미션.
어때?
여러분의 좋아요로 어때를 응원해주세요.
How about that? 어때?
어때?
빛깔어 마스틱 왕들의 클릭 여기 팔각정 놀이판을 키워 international baby ho baby don't mastic but 빛깔어 마스틱 빛깔어 마스틱 심장이 breathing zoom 대감당할 수 있는 flow 늘어나는 순애들 기득권 걸어 my groove 비슷한 건 없지 future proof 맘만 백핀 넌 no blue give me that give me that give me that 이건 나의 클릭 탑티어 따라오려 태워 passion blood 애매해진 너의 복각 figure 빛깔어 마스틱 왕들의 클릭 여기 팔각정 놀이판을 키워 international baby ho baby don't mastic but
Okay, I like the wordplay, international, domestic, travel. I like some of their key point choreo, that was fun.
나는 빛깔어 마스틱 왕들의 클릭 여기 팔각정 놀이판을 키워 international baby ho baby don't mastic but 빛깔어 마스틱 왕들의 클릭 여기 팔각정 놀이판을 키워 international baby ho baby don't mastic but 빛깔어 마스틱.
Okay, I like the framing here, that was fun. Okay, I mean, I would say that was pretty on par with what my expectations were. There wasn't a ton about it that made me go, wow, I really love this. This makes me love the track more. You know, there wasn't anything astronomically captivating about it. There's a couple wordplay options. I like the frame out, but if you notice with having everybody, when they do this, notice how they're framing the feature right there. So this is different than what we had already seen from whenever I just watched it, but just note though that you have your two that are up and then your two that are framing down, and then you have your point in the center. Now, yes, directionally I like the choice that they make, but I do feel like their formations were very simple. And their dynamics weren't as aggressive in the forefront as I feel like they should be if you're going to approach your choreography the way that you are. Now, remember, I know they are also actively working on another challenge, but I can't discredit that, you know, if you choose to occupy your time or to focus your energy on a particular challenge that still isn't that's not going to be deemed an excuse of, oh, you get a pass because you chose that over this. It's everyone's still held to the same level of criteria regardless of that. You know, maybe you just don't go home on this challenge, and we're able to see part of your management as a crew. You want to provide something good and competitive, but you also don't want to make it an unhealthy attempt to try to bring this to life whenever it's not when you know that this isn't going to send you home with something else, but this could help you if the other challenge is more competitive. It's just a little note from me. So if I do touch on a critique, I do know that they are operating two different challenges at the same time, but it's still a challenge, and it still needs to be looked at with an objective eye, as much as of an objectiveness I can bring in my scope. I do like this. This is fun. It's a nice little moment. And they do a good job here to kind of build, really push out transition. It is fun, but something I do notice, I didn't notice a ton of stuff on the floor. You know, like I really felt like we kept just in the standing and maybe just rotating, not really guiding in the kinesphere, allowing our body to ebb and flow throughout. It did feel like we were just doing content for the majority of it. And I do like that dip there, but it does feel more so, here's our feature, and then everybody else is just complimenting him. It's not really a joint. It doesn't feel like a joint routine. I'm not saying it's disconnected. It just feels like, it feels typical. It feels predictable. I do like this whenever they dip, but notice that they still haven't gone to the ground at all besides that very beginning. Now their formations are really clean, and I like how clean the routine is, which is nice. But so far they've only explored with that, except for that one time at the very beginning with the framing, is they've kind of hit mid and then they've kind of hit at the hip level. They've never really dived down here as a group yet. So I think that's a big key thing that I feel like they could have added and would have been really nice. But even here, I like that. That was a cool little, like, so they're making good musicality choices. But we've already seen this formation, you know, having the two here. And I think that's what's validating my point for me, is it really just looks like here's your front, and then they just switch places. Yeah, they go here, but then they go back to here. This is their home base, you know. But it's a nice formation. I like this build out. That was fun. And it's different than what we've already seen, which I enjoy. But for the key point, they just switched formations. I do like the transition here, but they're keeping it all unison. There's not enough variety in the non-unison to make the unison stand out. And I think that's another note too. It's good they went kneeling there. That's good. But note though that they came right back up. No, they didn't. They switched. Forgive me in my assumption. I didn't catch that. Kneel. Boom. Kneel. Good. That was nice, but if you notice, that's just that brief moment the camera caught it. They're still operating with my center, even though they're creating more of a circle, it still has your too low, more facing not towards him or facing towards him with the standing and the kneeling. There's still no floor activation. Yeah, but then look right here, we are back in that formation we've already seen many a times with the repeated choreo, and that's what adds to the simplicity of the execution or the content itself. It is nice that they made that formation change. It's different. You still have your feature in the middle. It makes sense why you have them in the middle, so I don't want to say like that's off. I like the fact that they are in a different formation here with this set of choreo than what they were before. But it is still very unison. There's not as many peel outs or ripples. It's not a lot that's engaging me. It just feels like a beat track, like they're dancing a beat track. And this was where I was saying that this is the only layered framing that we have seen in the levels is this one, where you have your kneeling, your standing, then you have your center. They do that 3 times, but they face different ways. And the problem with it is you are doing it 3 times with no other formations that show this level represented besides this type of formation. And that just shows the limitations of the visuals that you brought to the table. And I think that's maybe why this one, I don't believe this one will be picked at the point. Remember, I've watched B2B. I think B2B has a higher chance in comparison to this one after I've seen it. I do like that hit. That bass was really nice. I liked that. I wish we had more transitions or more moments like that throughout the whole thing instead of the very end. Now they finish. I like the ending. The ending was great, but I needed that kind of fluency and transitions and levels and engagement in all of it. You know, I feel like most people would have disconnected at that point because it was something that's just, whenever you're looking at choreography, that is a component you can't ignore. Yeah, but I mean, it's nice, it's good, it's just predictable, you know, typical, but they're very clean and I like their movement. So I mean, there's always pros and cons to all of these.
파이터 B 신곡 안무 창작 미션.
Ambitious.
여러분의 좋아요로 Ambitious를
Here we
응원해주세요.
go. What they bringing to the table?
All ambitious men in the crew. Ambitious.
Oh, they're not even looking up at all. This is how they're starting. Oh, they got Hoya. This is fun. I really like the costumes on this one. I love the kind of the king symbol emblem right here on the elbow. I love that on the dancers. Woo! That was nice. Super fun. I wonder how many of them trip on that little tassel or it gets in their way on stuff. It's kind of fun though. Love that. Yeah, I enjoyed it. That made me like the song more. Definitely a contender for one of the ones selected. That was fun. Okay, this reminded me of something. So somebody on Patreon actually sent me commented about, there was some of the battles that I was reacting to, and they were like, it's interesting how so many of the other guys in Street Man Fighter were like hawking and dogging on not Hoya from Ambitious, but there was like Roll Tae-hyung or somebody from Ambitious about being an idol. But they didn't act that way about Field Dog. And because Field Dog's an idol, and Hoya too, he was a Gen 2 idol with Infinite. Fun fact, the first K-pop track I ever heard in my life was Infinite's intro to one of their albums. Very first one. It's so crazy that now that I'm here and I've just had so much knowledge of the K-pop world and everything, even before starting these reactions, and just seeing him here, it's such a full circle for me, which is super cool. But I just think it's interesting. Like, I haven't heard much drama about Hoya being an idol, and Field Dog, sure not. And because Hoya was pretty successful with Infinite, and then but there was another guy from Ambitious that was getting a lot of being dogged on for being an idol. But I will also note though that he was talking a lot of trash from the forefront, so he was kind of asking for it a little bit. He was kind of dishing it, so you got to take it if you're going to dish it. But I really liked this. I already touched on the costume. I love that so much, and I will say I really like the color red. But part of me, and I know with red too, it's like the Wong, the king, right? So I see this emblem as an affiliation with the red color. I really like that. I'm kind of just a tad bit disconnected with this particular applique on his costume. It could be another reference that maybe I'm not quite getting, but I do like it, and it does represent the crew's colors, so I feel like the crew is represented with the cummerbund, but it's a bit loose. I do like that. It feels, it's just like rugged, successful, but lived in, I guess, if that's what it feels like. It's classy, but strained. Anyway, but I really like just the usage of the isolation with those hands. It's super fun. Frame's really nice, and they're operating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're operating as an odd number with their feature as that odd. So I've said this about the Hwasa challenge, and I didn't really touch on it with the other crews, but here it is very clear to see they do frame. You have a level of, it's a little easier for you as a group whenever you operate with an odd number, because if you have a one person that is your artist that you are supposed to back up, that's your point. And if you have an even number, normally even numbers when you frame, you work through formations, your symmetry gets questioned or somebody gets covered up. Like there's a higher chance of it not being symmetrical with even numbers. So I like operating out of odd numbers, and a lot of my colleagues prefer odd number groups because it's easier to create features and points in your formation. So if you didn't know that, that's why a lot of times some of their formations just work more tastefully than other even number formations. That's just why, because it's naturally symmetrical. It's very easy. I like that boom with the breakdown. It feels very, it does read slightly Gen 2 to me with just this kind of, and there's like that angsty head rolls, the pulls, a lot of that you see, and Hoya's a part of it, so, I mean, he's not the only one affiliated. I like that, which is, it's really nice, great choreo. I think this is fun. Feels full. Yeah, it's slightly off there with the 3, but I like the branch off where you have your dancers. So you're now into your verse. So sometimes I do like the strategy of you don't need to operate with everybody, or not everybody needs to be actively moving during the verse. It's nice to set it up so it creates a story or it progresses. You want to use your dancers strategically. Some people choose to have everybody but frame them in a way where they can add on, or it's buildable, like you can build that formation up. Here they're going and opting for the small groups, which I really like. Love that. And there's slight puppeting that's taking place, not puppeting this style, but like puppeting in concept, wherever they're being controlled by the feature, which I really like because it shows a connection between the two, which you don't want it to be too disconnected, which I think is a note that I made about alt days. It wasn't disconnected. It just felt like they weren't collaborating enough. It just felt very like separated, you know, but I could see that it works. But then having them come back in, I really like that. But then I love the choice they made. They didn't just basket run off. Shout out to no basket runs in that. But these guys, they're still accenting whenever we switch it out for a group of 4. I really like it. It's still building. And I think this is very smart from them. And it's very symmetrical. They're keeping the symmetry, which is great when you have these types of numbers. Let me also note too, Olchan, I think, is probably one of the most diverse in the toolkit fluencies of this type of show. I think it's really cool that this crew was made first before competing, and I haven't seen the show, so maybe I'll get around to watching it. I am excited about that, just seeing how this crew is formed. But I think it's really cool just seeing that you do have a crew that maybe their teamwork, they're still figuring it out, but also that could work in their favor because Olchan is the leader, I believe, right? Because I saw him and just through the ranks and everything, of course. But I really like the fact that he's not approaching, or it doesn't feel like there's this, I'm the leader and what I say goes. And I really like that because sometimes people can get power trips in that way. And it just depends on the relationship that your crew has and the development prior to the show. And I just really like his diversity that he's brought to the table of his choreography. I love his choreography that he's done so far. I've loved the battles that I've seen from him. And I really like how he meshes well with everybody else here. Like, you can't tell the difference between Olchan, who's a world-class battler, and Hoya, who's had the most idol experience being an idol, versus everybody else. Now, that was just a slightly bit dynamics. Oh, I understand. I really like how they chose the opposition. I was just focusing on two dancers so it looked off, but it's nice to see the full picture. That was good. That was cool. Boom, boom, and then he brought it. So he changed it, 1, 2, and then he flipped it. That was really fun. Yeah. So this is nice where you have, they are slightly framing him, but he's more in the center. I like the spotlight choice. It's good. Now, a couple things that I could think of right now at the top of my head as to why this may not have been picked, because everybody has really good moments and everybody always has there's a chance it doesn't get picked because I don't know who wins. The density of the dancing itself. So the dancers I think is fine, but Hoya, he's really popping off and going in, and this could be something that Rain wants, but if Rain wants to perform this live, then maybe that could be something he wants to be more, he doesn't want to have to be as involved. I also think this formation here is an example of how an even number group can work this to their favor, because you notice that you have 2 dancers over here and then you have 3 over here, and how they framed it, it's supposed to be a column with one of them featuring. So it's not symmetrical, and it's not the end of the world because this is the only one, but I love this right here, this wave all the way through. But let me also note this, we already saw something very similar to that in the Mega Cruise. It was with Olchan and King Tut, Tatat. Yeah, I saw that they did that since, no, I don't think it was a both in the trace, but they did do a trace where it was over like that. So for me, I'm always a fan with the overhead, but instead of going the other side, he bled it down. So normally I keep those separated because it is a different concept and all that, but it is a competition where your stamina and your creativity is always challenged. So that would be my big note. I really wish they either could have started that trace in a different part of his body, or they could have gone about it not from the back, but maybe traveling it from the front. Just a different choice in how to create that trace for the feature, because it is very similar to a very key point that happened in the Mega Cruise already at this time, because this happened after Mega. Now, is that a big enough issue as to be like, I'm not picking that because I've seen this before? Absolutely not. I love the fact that the dancer did and chose to do waves behind it. And it was, of course, I think it was Olchan who did it. I think, right there. I like that lean and the drop. So that's my big note, because Olchan's also affiliated with that. That's what makes me think and reminisce over the Mega Crew. It's not a big enough issue, though, for me to be like, this is not getting picked at all. Very big contender. But remember, it's up to preference too. It is pretty subjective in this challenge. Also, I think it's interesting to note that his costume becomes more unhinged the more this happens. And I really like that happening. It was really put together in the cummerbund, and then it slowly just started to unravel, which is cool. And I know just the fullness of the movement really helps with that. I also like the fact that he did one of the first key points of the choreo. He's bringing it back and they're doing a breakdown. So it's creating more of an accent into that, which is really fun. I think it's fun. Their formations too, they're able to create more options compared. I know they only had 4 backup dancers, but they operated with 5 people. They have 7. So the 2 extra numbers provides way more depth in the stage, which can really help in these cases. Nice breakdown, and they bring it, and I love how they brought it back in. Anda versus, like, they didn't wait till the end of the phrase to join back in. They hit that bass that bled over into the next phrase, and I really like that. With the footwork too, they did a good job in their levels, their formations. There wasn't anything that made me feel like, I feel like we're maintaining a certain level a little too long. We're not varying up our dynamics. So they did a really good job, great balance. I think this is a big contender, and I like how they finished with a really great ending fairy option. Like, yeah. And I think that's something, yeah, there's the ending fairy. Super fun, and they're tired. That was good. I really liked that one, and it's definitely I've only seen 2 others so far. It is definitely one of, it was enjoyable. I did like that one.
파이터 B 신곡 안무 창작 미션. 여러분의 좋아요로
1 million.
응원해주세요.
1 million should have a lot of experience operating with this type of challenge, so I'm expecting something pretty on par with what you normally see in the realm. Where are they operating? Even number? That's fun. That was good. Ooh. Yeah, I really like this one. We've seen that dynamic before. Hashtag Jam Republic. But I'm always a fan of that. I'm always a fan. I've done it myself. I love it. This is, yeah. They are doing a good job creating some peep choreo that it feels like it matches the vibe really well. This is good. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I really liked that. Do they have an ending fairy too? It's so stoic. I know sometimes a lot of these crews choose to just go ham and just do something really weird, but I like that. That was fun. Okay, we're gonna start at this very beginning. I really liked this. I liked the choice of the velvet. They did take more of that, I own a mansion and I have all this money, but I don't get out much. Is kind of the vibe of the outfits for my feature. And the choice of red makes sense because of the word blood. So it takes more of that that kind of warmer color. A warmer color would work because of just some of the verbiage that is used. And I know the color red is a part of the Korean flag too, so it makes sense if you kind of knock a couple things out at the same time. That was cool. Did they go in the right order with the hands? They did. That's what makes those types of things work. That was really nice. They bled off. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they operated with an odd number, so that's why a lot of their formations looked really nice. I was about to be really impressed if they were even, but they're odd. But they're still impressive though. So they're starting in a really nice clean formation. They started in a very abstract position with his hand. Very interesting. Matched that sound very well. Probably my favorite interpretation of the sound that we've heard. They're also choosing to ride that bass with the lyrics in the forefront. Boom, boom, boom. So it does provide, so my only note would be the feature is approaching the song more polyrhythmically because he's dancing with his backups and they're hitting the song polyrhythmically. I really like it. But part of it is, okay, if I was the singer and I was looking at this and I see that I'm having to hit basses while I'm writing a completely different rhythm, that requires more brain power and more effort for me to make sure that I'm on top of my own song. But maybe that's the kind of accountability or the type of vibe that Rain wants. I don't know. I think this is a huge contender. This a da-da-da, then he bleeds and he folds it over. That was really fun. Yeah, so the key point is this blood, blood, and I remember it throughout the track, but it's not a they're repeating the same dynamic. It's I understand that's the key point, and they're on the word blood, blood. They're doing a different formation, or they're in a different spot, which makes that read a little bit more tolerant. And when you have a key point, it does in the chorus, you tend to be more forgiving whenever a chorus is repeated when you're doing an artist track, with part of the intention being, you know, you want people to remember it. That's a really good note. Like, I remembered it. I love that da 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 da, and just that bleed over. That's super fun. They went down. I really like this on Zoom, V10 Zoom. It's kind of more like a vehicle choice. Yeah, that. I will say how they're choosing to do that sound he is controlling them most of the time when that happens. So I would make that a note of maybe changing up how that sound is interpreted with your feature, because he's controlling them every time instead of it being a collaborative. Sometimes they're all together when that sound is hit, and sometimes he's controlling them. So like diversifying that timbre execution. That was really cool with the with the legs switching. That was super cool, and it provided a nice visual there. As they come up, and it's nice that they didn't come up the same way. They came up strategically in opposition. So if we go back here and we look right there, da 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 da. So they're also hitting that instrument in the back. I'm not gonna say what the instrument is because I really don't know, and I feel like I've been wrong this whole time. But it sounds like an electric violin at this point, so that's what I may go with. But these two guys are facing away from each other. These two guys are also facing away from each other, but they're also facing opposite ways as these guys, and then these guys are facing opposite as my back does. So I just think that's really nice. And then of course your center is center. And I like this a lot. That add-on was really cool. It was a surprise because normally whenever you come up in succession like that, you're not used to people popping off that quickly after coming up in a hinge in any way in this context. So I really like that. Yeah, that. Oh, you know what? Let me retract this. Okay, I did just say I wanted to see more diversity in how they're hitting the timbre, and I just got it. So I'm retracting what I said. I like the choice. That's probably why I liked it, is that they were probably answering my own questions on my own notes that I was creating with this. Goodness. Let me just see that one more time just to make sure. Okay, that was supposed to be unison. Yeah, so that was unison. My brain, when I saw it, because one of them was slightly behind, it looked like he went on the first half of it and they went on the second half of it. Hence why I made my point I made earlier. So forgive me, they were just slightly off. Anyway, I saw what they were going with. I really like that. I like, give me that, give me that. Yeah. That was another example. He controlled them. Yeah. So anyway, I like it that they're hitting it. It's a really tricky thing to hit, and it happens sporadically. I mean, of course, there's a rhythmic intention behind it, but it does happen sporadically to the ear because you're not focused on it, and then you remember it. They're really showcasing different layers and parts of the music that are really nice and enjoyable that help me enjoy the song more. And that's something that you want in the entire package. The singer's not enough at this point anymore. Your dancers, I mean, I don't feel like the singer by themselves, depending on the concept. For a track like this, the singer is not enough. You have to have visuals. You have to have something more than just him singing. There's so much that's being offered, and the dancers are really helping us be able to put icing on the cake of how he's approaching it. But not only that, seeing how they're framing and bringing certain parts of the music to life because they're visual representation of the track, it makes it more enjoyable. And I really, really like this. I like he takes it up, boom, and it breaks. I think it's nice. It did look like a cigarette, I think is what it looks like. But maybe it was more like a fancier approach, like a teacup is what I'm going to assume there. Because the smoking, most people use this kind of verbiage, but because he did this, and he tilted it back, he didn't bring it up. Yeah, he goes, oh, boom. So that was nice, and it hit the broken glass. So I think that was great wordplay there. Now this, I'm going to say the same thing. I love it when people do this dynamic or this movement. It's so fun. I enjoy it. It's not a copycat. It's really not. We've seen this a lot. I've seen this since 2010, 2011. I've seen people do this. I've put it in my own choreography. It's one of my first choreos. I did this. I love it. Something that I like about this is that they allowed the moment where they drop down, a moment to breathe, do this motion. If you're curious how to do it, I explained it in the Hwasa video because Jam Republic did it in their course, but I'll explain it here. They're taking one arm and they're placing it behind them out of the camera view. You can't see it, and that's really helpful and strategic, and that's what makes it look really nice. They're all approaching the posture very similarly, but they're placing their weight on that back arm. That's how you can tell that all of them dynamically are tilting their weight to the back because they're placing their weight there, allowing their body to move and scoot. It's also impressive, and it's good to note they're wearing pants. This really helps. And the type of pant that you have can determine how much traction that your bottom is going to get as you rotate, because you are rotating on your bottom. But also note too, they all have to be, it's just not as clean. It's super minor, but some of them have their foot completely lifted off. The goal is you want it to hover. They are choosing the hover approach, and that's what makes it look really nice and seamless, and that's what creates the illusion that you want. So that's a fun fact. And if you wanted to learn how to do it, place your weight on the back arm. The other arm creates more of a frame, and you have to, in how you go, you have to try to maintain your form and use your core to lock in your body as you do it. So I really do like that though. I love that how they drop. So it feels like there's a lot of risks that the dancers are making that are really fun and that are paying off well. Like not looking where they're going, or they are looking and it just feels like a thrust of movement going down, but it's controlled. And that kind of creates like a little lift and they transition. So they're really entertaining a lot of levels throughout the entire track. And that's what makes it very captivating and so much to watch and see. Yeah. I love it. I will keep this note, even though I said I wanted to see different ways to hit this. The controlling is fine. Like the usage of, sometimes it's in unison, sometimes it's not, but I will still keep this. They need to figure out a different way besides this, like a vibration or a traveling vibration effect. They need to figure out a different way outside of that aggressive staccato texture, because we've seen it, and I feel like that's their go-to texture that they're going for, that sound, which I get. But there's a way you can wave it, you can like use your head. It's just, I don't feel like it's varying enough. They are traveling it, but the texture execution is the same. So I wanted to see something a little like like maybe with arms, but not quite the exact same texture. But at the end of the day though, it does look very nice, and because for me, I am actively looking for things that could have hindered this, it is a bit difficult to find things in this that I'm like, ooh, that's a big note that I'm giving them. And that probably means that they were probably one of the ones that got selected. I'm going to be honest. I really think they're going to be top 2. This feels like a top 2 kind of performance. Maybe, I don't know, because I still have a couple more to watch. I really like this, and there are so many aspects of it that are enjoyable. I like the framing. The key choreo, I feel like they have a lot of really nice things about it. There's some things that I feel if they added maybe one more focal point besides just this, I think that would have read really nice. I do like that national, that blood, I really do like. And I know they're trying to do this. This was really nice. I liked seeing that. The peel out was super fun. It's nice, and I like the, you know, we've seen this formation pretty often with the odd numbers with the 7. There's just really subtle, clean issues here, but it's not enough to where I'm like, oh, it's off. I like the columns here. It's nice, and they broke off that mystic, and then they still have it. They're bleeding it over. He's having this moment with the slides. I like the choice where it's an odd choice of who they're picking, not people. Well, they are. Where they go, my 2 in the center, they go one way, the other 2 in the back go the other way, and then they all come together. I really like that. It's not oftenly done, and I like that. Yeah, give me that. Solid run from them. Really enjoyed that. Definitely, at this point, top of my list. I liked it. Their ending fairy could have been better, maybe, but I mean, it doesn't matter. It's for this challenge.
신곡 안무 창작 미션.
WEDEMBOYZ. I'm curious what they're gonna do to this. They always have some comical, gimmicky something about this song. They're the first ones not doing like a fancy approach or like a historical nuance approach to this. Fun. I like their content. It's fun. But they remind me, similar to a note I made about lady bounces, is that I know Vata is the artist. They have great choices. I love them. But he bleeds in a little bit. He doesn't stand out as Rain, you know? A little bit. It's a little tricky to find it. But I love these choices. That's fun. Whoa, that was cool! Okay, I love it. That was a fun way to end it. That was fun. Okay, they reminded me of Lady Bounce with their costuming. I already touched on that. But if you didn't hear me because of the music or anything, I like the fact they made a different costume choice, which could have worked in their favor for sure. But I don't feel like your feature stands out as much as it needed to. Here, I like the choreo as well, but they did do a lot of stuff in unison. The build-up was really nice here. That dun dun dun. I like the content. It feels very new gen choreo. I like it, which could be something Rain is factoring in. He's like, I want something that's newer than my normal stuff. I don't know what his criteria was. Remember, it's Rain. It's different. They have their own agendas or whatever, you know? I like this jump. But they are taking a lot of, I like their formations. I think that's just my big note, is that because it's not very clear where my feature is in the front, or like it's not clear because of costuming where he is, I'm fearful that he'll get lost sometimes in some of these visuals, and it makes the visuals not as readable. But we gotta know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7! There's 7, an odd number with a feature. Love it! I like that. Mystic, boom, and then they just go around. Very clean. I love that walk. Then they hit that bass with a drop. And also note too, they are doing a lot of choreo in unison, which could be fine if you could see where your feature was, but because it's in unison, sometimes if he's not in our center, we have to kind of redirect and recalibrate. Okay, I'm remembering, Bots is my feature, Bots is my feature. Back in the center. It shouldn't have to be him in the center for me to know that he's Rain. And that tells anything. He does make some choices, but it does remind me of some of their other stuff that they do, you know, and it feels very WEDEMBOYZ, which does that quite match the assignment that they're given? It is fun, but it does feel like they're just doing choreo and they're switching out the transitions in it. It does feel like they probably cared more about the muse of Straight Man Fighter more than this challenge. It's what it feels like, but it doesn't mean that the quality of the movement is bad. I love the quality. So when I say if I feel like a group is focusing more on the other challenge versus this one, because I know that they were actively working on 2 challenges at the same time here, what I'm referencing is the formations, dynamics, levels, the choreographic choices. When I see a lot of content and they just switch formations, that's what it reads. It's like, okay, let's just do content, and okay, let's do a thread through. Okay, let's go put this in a V. Okay, let's do an add-on here. I do that whenever I have a quickish turnaround time. If I have to do like a community performance, you make those types of concessions, which it is a quick turnaround time for this. And if it's a challenge that I feel like I know I'm not going to be the best at, sometimes if I feel like I would be more competitive in another challenge, I'm going to focus more of my creative attention there versus here. So I'm not discrediting what they're doing. I like this pose. It is fun. But there's a lot of unison here. This bleed up was really nice. It's cool that they did a round, boom with the wave, Empire. And it goes boom, DNA. It's nice. I mean, this was sick. That moment right there was super cool, and it matched very well what they did earlier. That was fun. Very clean too. But most of it's in unison. And that's my biggest note for this one, which is why it may not have gotten picked. But content-wise, I really like it. That right there. It's just vibey. It's a groove. It's a vibe. It matches, but it feels like they played it like, here's us just doing the challenge. This feels like a bare minimum performance from WEDEMBOYZ. It doesn't feel like they invested themselves immensely into this challenge as I feel like they did in Mega Crew or they did in other challenges that I have seen from them. Now, that's not a note as to why they wouldn't be picked, because that would make it more subjective than the point of me looking at this. I do like the choice where they're walking off and then you hear them, they're like, woo, we're done, we did it. And they go and they sit down and they're posing. So they took a very different approach than all the other crews that I saw. Their costuming is very different, but you notice, I mean, just looking here, you have another guy in more of that hot pink. He's in that racer red. He's in an all red. He's also showcasing red. So that's my disconnect, is that he should be the only one in red, or he should be the one that's very notable. What he's wearing is very obviously, he's a feature and everybody else is wearing more muted tones, you know, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's my biggest note for that, and that may have affected how the choreography was appeared. It did look a lot in unison, which makes it difficult to find where's the feature, where did he go, you know? And so that's my big note for that. But I mean, I love the content. I think it was really fun. It felt like WEDEMBOYZ. It had some nice gimmicks, really creative moments, and I really liked it. But there's a chance this may not be strong enough in the other facets of what makes this an artist challenge or artist rough draft challenge that others, I feel like, rose to the challenge a bit more effectively.
창작 미션.
Just
여러분의
jerk.
좋아요로
Here we
저스트
go.
응원해 주세요.
This way.
That's the way.
Just jerk.
Ooh. Very clean. Whoa. Very clean. Yeah, fun. Very clear where our feature is. This is fun. Ooh. I know Ambitious is something similar to that. I love what they did here a lot. That was cool. Yeah. That was enjoyable as he sits and faces the back. I really enjoyed that. That was very fun. So my note, I like the costume choice. It was fun. Like the color contrast between the red and the gray. It makes sense why they choose the red, because I know the king historical, the red was the color that was worn. So it is more, it's like a hybrid. It's not as much of a hybrid as what I saw from from B2B. But I like this one, but it does feel that he's wearing more of that whenever, like, older gentlemen, whenever they wear something of that kind of, it's like an influenced streetwear inspired kind of, I forgot what it's called. There's a term for it. It's just, I like it, but I feel that it could not match what they're bringing to the table, because you know, like, what they're wearing, it feels a different concept. This feels more like a ballad, like a boy group ballad, and this feels like the Bad Boys, rich, like, this feels like two different types of rich boys. Like, you have the rich boy who's like, give me my money because I lent it to you so I can go have fun, and this one reads, I own a bunch of stuff but I'm humble about it and you're not gonna know, and I have a secret, but you'll find out after 16 episodes of a drama. That's what it feels like to me. But once again, that's just like my preference. It's like my opinion. It's not really objective in any way. That's just how I feel. So I'm not really going to comment on the costumes as much anymore. This peel out is super dope. I think a big note for this choreo is what makes it look good is the feature is on the same page in crispness as the backups are. What could be what Rain's drawback is does Rain dance in the similar pocket as Just Jerk? I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like his groove or how he comes about is different than Just Jerk's pocket, and that could be the biggest indicator as to why Just Jerk's doesn't get picked, because can Rain match the level of cleanliness? Because in the unison sections it looks really nice. It's so crisp and clean in unison, and WEDEMBOYZ also had crisp, clean in unison, but their problem was you couldn't see the feature that well, which is why that worked against them. Here the unison does work because you know where your where your features of the formation because of costuming. That was cool where they all wave down and he comes up, which is really fun. But the amount of technique that Rain would need to have in check it's very fundamental. Just Jerk's always been a fundamental crew to me. When just look here. That was so cool. That's probably my favorite little peel out, or that kind of accented that was so cool. I love that. Because it was so not front to back, it was so sporadic, and I loved it. Yeah, doom 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 doom, and they didn't go 1 and 2 and 3. It goes 1 da da dun dun dun. So we went front, back, then front, and then side, side. Doom 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 doom. So it made it cohesive with how he was doing it in the center. So it was very subtle, so freaking effective. It traveled back and then it's shot over. Ooh, love that. But that right there, vroom, vroom, the amount of waving and speed change control that is required of their feature is a lot. So that's my biggest note for Just Jerk on this one. Because it's different than K-pop choreo. It is, you know. That doon doon click. Then they're going back into the unison here. I like this swing, so it really helps emphasize, but everything else he's matching with them. Two. It's still unison, same choreo. There isn't a key point in the choreo. I do like this. Ding, ding, ding. But we all know, but remember, it's blood. With blood, of course, these are points for blood. But remember, too, if it's an artist's mission, I do know I made a reference to BIIB using this, and it reminded me of TT. No, I didn't think they were doing the TT symbol, but the notability of the focal point and how iconic this symbol is, but done in this way. So this particular by the face, in any way, shape, or form, is going to remind people who are a part of this community of pop music, so the K-pop realm, which Rain would be qualified and quantified under. This is going to be relatable regardless of the wordplay that was taking place of Chile, right? Chill. I know this is 7. You can't negate that it does have some sense of a fingerprint replication to TT. Did I say they copied it? No. Did I say that it reminded me of that? Yes. And I still stand by that. Going to here, right here. a really big K-pop group that has done something that involves blood, BTS, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And they also did DNA. DNA is right here in this. And so they did a lot of, it feels like that move felt like a hybrid between those two tracks. Fingerprinted. Do I think that was bad? No. Is it something to just take note of? Yes. And I think that's okay. That there are certain K-pop nuances. If anything, I think that right there helped them make some of their movements tailor more towards the K-pop aesthetic of the challenge, because I feel like their moves are so crisp and clean that it would look so cool to have it done on a live stage. But you have to factor in, like with 1 Million had a lot of that K-pop pocket groove, how they chose to go about through the movements, and the movements, the formula worked for them, I think is what I would say. Like they had nice key moments, features, but they also followed the assignment well. Here, this feels like Just Jerk doing the K-pop challenge. I like it, but I think it is too crisp, which is a weird thing to say. It worked for them in Mega Crew, but here it can work against them because you're dealing with an artist who doesn't rock the same rock as them. And especially when the more you have this artist do unison with them, the more unlikely this will be picked. This was cool. Like, this is all technique because they're not jerking the motion, even though they're called Just Jerk. They're doing proper vibration technique or reverberation within the bop that they're hitting. And that's something really important to note. This was so cool. What makes this cool is my guy playing Rain, right? His fluidness in the wave. Can Rain do it this well? I don't know. That boom, super cool. Do I think that it matters? No, but do I think those little things that I'm saying, could that influence whether or not Rain would pick this? Yeah, possibly, but remember, I'm not Rain. I don't know his training in and out. I do know that he's an artist and he has a certain image that he likes, a certain agenda that he wants with certain tracks. And so honestly, this is up there as a possible contender, like other ones. I like that walk, but do they have any notable focal point choreo that is not making me remember or affiliate it to another group's focal point choreo? That's what I wanted to note, is when you're doing focal point, it needs to make it tailor to the track and not oh, that looks similar to this. You don't want that to be somebody's first look. Yeah, so they are taking a more unison approach, which could also work against them. They do have really nice moments, but that feels very formulated, where the verses, they all framed around and they all were accented, and they chose to build it that way, and I like it. But the chorus, it's very unison. So it feels like unison, broken up, unison, broken up, unison. And it feels very like cookie cutter in the format, which could also possibly work against them, or it could work for them. Just the technique on this. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, then a boom, boom. It's really nice. I love it. As somebody who does these styles and I train in the style that they Just Jerk trains in, I freaking love it. Do I think Rain's gonna pick it? Honestly, compared to the other ones I've seen, I would be surprised. Not saying it's bad at all. I just think that this is a style that I don't think Rain would go for. I think it's just a preference thing for that. And with the track, I think it matched the track really well. And I really like it. But that's my big note for this one is, would Rain pick it? Will he feel like he can effectively execute this choreo as well as they can? I don't think so. So I think it's mostly where his scope, because remember, he's older too, so he's more set in his grooves and set in his ways. Not saying he's not a student and growing and learning, but for him, if he's, as a solo artist, he probably wants to make sure that he is set up for success. And this one, I love it, and I think it would be successful. It looks cool, but just the things I've already mentioned, there's not enough focal point choreo that I felt 1 Million had that was really good. And I would say Ambitious too would be up there as a contender, but out of all of them, I really liked 1 Million's because it felt like the format of how you would approach a K-pop choreo, but a lot of choices they made, their commitment to it, their choices, it just felt very seamless. It made me hear the track, because that's a musicality thing too. They hit the track musicality wise in really nice techniques, but in a predictable way on the musicality side. Here, but their dynamics were unpredictable, which I liked. 1 Million, they did more of the musicality, and the content was more polyrhythmic in nature, which could have been something that was, does Rain want to operate in a polyrhythmic pocket? I don't know, you know, and that's just, all of this is up to preference. We all know my opinion doesn't matter at the end of the day, because what was done, you know, but I think every crew held their own. And I think every crew just had one facet of it that could be a preferential make it or break it of it. But I really did like this set from Just Jerk. It was very clean, and I would like to see this on the stage too. I think it was cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful in some way. I know with some of the crews that I was reacting to, that I have reacted to, I may come across, I may feel disconnected on some of the choices that they make, or maybe a lot of this is just, at the end of the day, it is very preference based and subjective, this portion of the challenge. I really feel that, because what the artist says does influence the choice, and what the artist may want may be completely different than what the general public wants, or what the fight judges believe, you know. And I think that's okay. That's what makes it all interesting, you know. I feel like some crews may be like, I thought ours was the best, and they could have been the best, but Rain may choose a completely different one because of what he liked, whether it was the costume, the vibe, the practicality of him being able to do it, the key points of the choreography, the formations, the dynamics, or the texture choices of the pocket. It really just kind of depends. Or if it's a, you know, he right now wants to make sure that he's able to actually do it, so he's going to pick one that feels the most doable for him and not really factor in other things. We don't know. Or maybe you guys know. I personally don't know at this time. And based on the criteria that I looked and I found, I really wasn't given a lot with that. So, but I know that this challenge was going to be beneficial to those who were doing the Muse to Streetman Fighter, which is all of them, in hopes that they would have a higher chance of winning or making it into the finals. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.